Hello, everybody. Should I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening? I know that there are tons of people joining us for this event with Adorama from all over the world. So thank you so much for taking the time to spend a little part of your day with us today. I'm very excited to be here. So thank you to Adorama and omsystem for having me. And I'm going to give you some tips to elevate your photography while traveling. So if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. I'll try to do my best to answer as many questions as I can. If I don't answer your question, I'll make sure that I go back to Adorama YouTube and I will definitely answer them afterwards. So don't hesitate, just keep on asking your questions. So let's get started. First of all, as I said, I'm an omsystem ambassador, and I've been an ambassador for a little while now, but you can probably tell from my accent, I am not from the US. I am based in the US, but I'm originally from France. My accent is here. I'm keeping it. It's what can I do? I'm from a small town called Chalon-sur-Saône. It's actually where photography was invented. So you would think that with that background, I would have had a camera in my hand before I knew how to walk, but that was not the case. It took me a while to do that, actually, to go back to photography. And that's actually the first ever oldest known camera photograph still in existence. It is actually here in the US, in Texas. It's a 8-hour-long exposure, I think, where Nicéphore Niepce, so the inventor of photography, opened his window, and you can actually see, maybe you can, the roof and of the buildings, and that's the first photo that still exists that he took. My village is way at the back. My house probably was not built at that time. But I like to say that I'm a bee photographer, not in the bee category, but I like to photograph everything that starts with a bee. So birds, bugs, bears, bubbles for refraction. That's what I like to photograph. And in 2020, so during the pandemic, Olympus, so omsystem is if you know Olympus, you know omsystem because they separated their division and the camera division was bought back and transformed into omsystem. And so in 2020, it was still Olympus, and they had a great program called the Breakthrough Program. They were looking for young upcoming photographers to join them. I wasn't that young, but they still accepted me because they decided that young and upcoming, it doesn't matter the age. You can still be young and upcoming if you are like 70, 80, or 90. So I did a project with them for 3 months. I just so lucky to have been selected. I followed a family of beavers in my local pond. During the pandemic, I had sold my house. I had moved to Concord, New Hampshire, the capital of New Hampshire. And I thought it's the end of my wildlife career. I'm done. I'm stuck downtown. But I found a pond and a whole ecosystem with a family of beavers. And so I actually spent 3 years. My project was 3 months, but it turned into a 3-year project for me. So just following the beavers, preparing for the winter. And I also find all the wildlife around that pond, the ecosystem, like the little red eft. And I started to try night photography. I started to try landscape photography, bird photography, and it really helped me to get better. But let's talk about the goal of this talk. So now that you got to know me a little bit more, for those of you who don't, the goal of this talk is really to help you elevate your photo when you are traveling, when you are going abroad, when you're going on a hike around maybe the place where you live. I'm going to give you 10 tips that I think are essential. And if you follow them, then hopefully you will get better photos, better stories to tell when you come back. So very often we think of traveling as we're traveling in an exotic place, like right here. That's actually one photo that I took really early on when I got my first OMsystem camera. And it's a sloth, one of my favorite animals. They're so cute. And I think that if we reduce the definition of traveling to exotic places, then we're going to miss probably like half of this audience, right? So I don't want you to think that this talk is all about traveling to exotic places. This talk is more inclusive. Traveling can mean going just a few minutes from where you are, right? You're taking a day trip because maybe you have a lot of work and that's all you can do, a few hours, and you're going to go on a hike. So I want you to think of traveling in that way. So this photo was not taken in Costa Rica. This photo was taken 20 minutes from my house in the White Mountains. The little tree frog, right? So you can travel to places that are closer to you and still get great images. So all those tips will apply to a trip that you've planned for years and years in advance, to a little excursion, a little trip that you're going to take for a day trip. I also said that I'm an OMsystem ambassador. I even have my t-shirt. I love this t-shirt. But I also don't want you to think that I'm pitching you, hey, you have to buy OMsystem because that's the only system that's worth having, right? No, I don't believe that. I believe that the best camera is the one that you have in your hands. And I'm going to tell you why I use OMsystem and why it's the best camera for me. But I don't want you to think that because it's the best camera for me, it's going to be the best camera for you. This photo actually here is taken very close to the Mont Blanc. It's the Aiguille du Midi, so one of the highest peak in Europe, the Mont Blanc. So it's next to it. And it's taken with a cell phone, right? So you can make some great photos. And I say make, not take, but make, because you are the maker. You are deciding how to compose this image and all the different parameters. So you're not just taking. Taking is very inactive. You're making an image. And so, yes, you can also, do very well with a cell phone. But as far as I'm concerned, I outgrow the cell phone and I needed a better camera. So I move on and I find OMsystem. So my first tip, let's start. My first tip when you are traveling is to travel light. It might sound like a very simple advice, but you'll be surprised how many people I see with enormous gear. And at the end, well, you probably not using half of the gear that you took, and it's going to slow you down. And I think it might also not help you being creative. I think having a limited kit will be better. So first of all, when I travel, so I did multiple trips across the US in my car. So that's my Toyota Sienna. I remodeled it. I had a little kitchen, a place to sleep. I made my own shower at the back, a great car. And that's how I travel across the US to many national parks. And so having a car, I still have quite a lot of space, but I can't take too many things, right? My kit is going to be, you'll see, very limited. The only luxury item that I carry in my car is a power bank. So I can plug in my computer, recharge my camera. So and it's solar powered. So that's the only luxury item and big item that I like to take when I travel in my car. And I actually just recently got a van. So it's a converted van, and I have a lot more space, but it's still space that I don't want to add too many gear, right? Because as I said, I want a kit that's light. I want a little bit of diversity to be able to take different type of photography, but still, even with a van, I want to keep things really simple and very light. And when I travel abroad, that's the same thing. I'm quite cheap. I don't like to have to pay extra to have my luggage put, inside the airplane. I like to keep it with me when I travel. So it's in the cabin, and most of the time you're only allowed to have one bag per person and one carry-on. And that's all I have. And that's also all I have when I travel in my car and in my van. And there is a size restriction because your personal item, your bag, you need to be able to fit it under your seats. So, for example, those are the airplane restriction that I use. That's what they have. They have like a 16 by 12 by 6 inches. So it's very, very small, but I'm able to put everything that I need in a bag that's 16 by 12 by 6 without compromising anything. That's me on my way to France a few months ago. And you can see I have a carry-on and I have my personal item with all my gear. It is possible. I'm going to show you what I pack. And I do also that because I have a really bad back and I just can't carry gear that are very, very heavy. So I'm going to show you what I carry and what my bag is, because I know that a lot of people are also interested in that. For me, it's all about size. So I like that omsystem is really compact compared to other brands. And so it's also not as heavy. So my chiropractor is very happy with my choice of camera. So what I carry is the OM1 Mark II. That's the newest omsystem camera. And I also carry the OM5. It's a smaller camera. I actually have it here, super small. And it's a great backup camera. I like to have two cameras. Maybe you don't need two cameras. I do that because I'm a professional photographer, so I like to have a backup, so just in case. With your camera, obviously, you need to have a SD card. You need to make sure that you invested in a good camera, so you also need to invest in a good SD card. At Adorama, you can find the SanDisk, for example, as long as you're getting the fast card. So good memory, fast writing and reading. That's very important because you don't want your buffer to be full too fast, right? You need to get your camera moving. It has a lot of capacity, so you need to make sure that you give it a good SD card. Extra batteries is also something that I carry because maybe during a day I might use two batteries. A charger, I don't own a charger. It's kind of weird, right? Because with my camera, I can just plug it in directly and recharge it. So when I travel, I don't use a battery charger, but I know that some people do like that. So that's a possibility. Now, in my camera bag, this is what I have. I have 4 lenses that are always with me. And I know that was one of the questions that some of you submitted questions earlier on. So I got, what are your 2 lenses that you cannot travel without? So if I had to pick 2 only, I'm a wildlife photographer, so I would definitely carry the 150-400. It's spectacular lens. It is a big lens. You can see it right behind. But if I only had one lens, that's probably the lens that I would pick. It is a pro lens, so in terms of the price, you will see that reflected, but it's really like the Ferrari of all, lenses. It's a brilliant lens to have. It's a fast lens, so sharp. And it's actually pretty light for the size and the reach that you're getting with this lens. So it's a macro four third. So remember 150-400 millimeter, you multiply by 2, and it has a teleconverter 1.25 that you can just press of a button, you get the teleconverter in. I know someone asked about, do you use teleconverter? No, I have to say with the 150-400, I do not use teleconverter. Do I have teleconverters? Yes, I have the 1.4 and the 2-time teleconverters from omsystem, but I do not feel the need to use them with the 150-400. Now, if my choice were the 40-150, it's a smaller lens, it's also an excellent lens, then yes, I might indeed carry a 1.4 or 2-time teleconverter to have a little bit more reach, but not with the 150-400. I also carry the Emswico 12 to 100 millimeter. It's a pro lens. It's a fantastic lens for landscape, for portrait. It is on the bigger side, so sometimes right now I actually just got the 12 to 40, so it started to replace that bigger lens, and that's the one that I actually took with me this summer to travel. I also like the Emswico 12 millimeter. It's not a pro lens, but it's fantastic for video. I do some video. I have a YouTube channel, so that's what I use to record my vlogs. And it's also a fantastic lens for night photography. I know someone was asking about night photography. I highly recommend this lens. Also, another lens that I have is the 90 millimeter macro. I love macro photography, and so that's one of the lenses that is always with me. If I really want to travel even smaller, the 60 millimeter macro is also perfect lens. I love this lens because it's so small, so sharp, and you got a 1-to-1 ratio. So great lens to have. And if I have my, macro lens, because I have my macro lens, I also have a flash, the FL700, and I also have a diffuser, the AK diffuser. Now, someone was asking me about, do you use tripod, monopod when you travel? Someone was saying that they assume that because of weight and because of traveling light, then probably a monopod would be better. Yes, highly recommend. I love my monopod. I use the three-legged thing. And it's the Alana. You can add some feet, and I also pair it with, actually I have it with me right here. I pair it with this Trinity head that allows me to do some video. It's very smooth, so that's what I have. I don't have a gimbal. I use a video head to be able to do my photography and videography. So this is great. Otherwise, they also have many different tripods, some for traveling, some that are a little heavier, so that I use for macro, like Albert. So that's what I have. And I also have an L bracket. So Ollie is their L bracket for omsystem. It's tailored to the camera. So that's something that's really good. It's not generic, that it's made for your camera. So you can access your battery and any port that you need. So yes, I'll definitely recommend that monopod. If you are looking for a monopod, go and try it. Go to Adorama and check it out. That's what I recommend. Go to your camera store and test the gear if you can. In terms of editing and storing, someone was also asking about how do you save your photo? How do you back up your photo? So I travel with my MacBook Air. I have the M2. And I also, if I really want to go even smaller, the iPad Pro is great. And then I have a USB Type-C multi-port adapter. It's from Satechi. It's great. And so I use that to move all my photos to my iPad. And then I also have external drive that I use. Samsung actually didn't put them here because with my MacBook Air, usually I have enough. So that's what I do. I have my SD card. I have my MacBook Air where I will download all my photos. And then I have external drive. So that's a lot of backup. That's free backup. So that's plenty. You just need to make sure that you're not going to put them in the same location. They're not going to be all in my bag, right? One of them might be in my jacket, another one will be in my bag, and another one will be in my carry-on. So then I know that if anything happens, well, all my backup are not in the same place. And then in terms of bag, so I have the Wonder Provoke light. It should be light LITE, but it's light because it's only a 11-liter bag. And if you roll up the top, you get 16. And in that, I can fit all my gear, included the 150 to 400. I do take the lens, the protector, and I do put it in my carry-on, but because I think it's a little bit less bulky, especially if I have my computer in. But that 11 little bag carries everything that I showed you. And I also have a little, it's actually from Fairhaven. It's made for biking and it works actually pretty well. It's also expanded into a backpack. And so that's something that I carry with me when I go on hike and I don't want to even carry a backpack. And I like the Wandered because it is weather sealed, like I never had any problem. It's very well made and it just fits all my gear. And I have a couple of things. So in the Wandered, I do take off the dividers and I use something called Wrap Z. So it's a product from Three Legged Thing that lets you wrap your lens. And so that way, you might have seen here when I showed you earlier on in this photo, if I can go back, I had a photo with all my bag right here. You can see that I don't have any dividers in. So I only have the Wrap Z, and so everything is quite compact, and that's why everything fits very well. So I highly recommend that. And then in addition, I have a couple of things that I have to help me record videos, to help me clean. I have a cleaning kit here. And I also have some ND filters because of filming. So I use those ND filters because of filming. And that's it. That's all I carry. Pretty simple. Now let's talk about mastering your camera before you go, which is essential. If you just got your camera and you are going on a trip and you haven't even unpacked your camera, the chances of having good images is very, very low. So I highly recommend spending quality time with your camera before you go. Understanding that exposure triangle, right? You need to be able to know how to expose your photo properly, and I highly recommend learning how to use the manual mode. The P mode, we joke that it's the professional mode. Your camera does everything for you, but you should really, really try to shoot in manual mode because that, I think, in my opinion, is the best way to improve your photo because you have full control of your camera. And to take an image like this, where you have your subject and most of your image is white, that white background, that would throw off my image. But because I use manual settings, then I'm able to control my ISO and I'm able to play with the shutter speed and play with the aperture to get the image that I want and make sure that my image is correctly exposed. Also, shutter speed. So what are you using? Someone was asking about what are the best settings to take bird photography, wildlife photography. Well, for bird photography, I'm really going to use the single mode, right? I want as many photos as possible to get the image at the end that will be the best, because if you have a bird, it's flying, those wings are going up and down. Well, there are positions of wings that are better than others. So very often I use, so with omsystem, I know all the cameras companies, they all have their own way of calling things. So single is simple in omsystem term. That's just one shot, and you can do one that's silence as well. So I personally like sequential because you have a lot of shots, up to like 20 frames per second. And so that will give me more option, but then I can also use SH2. So it's up to 50 frames per second. And that will give me a huge variety of wing position. With this, I don't need anything else. It's basically like watching a movie, right? Just pick the frame that you want and pick the slight difference. You can do that. So I recommend SH2 because with SH2, you still, it meters the brightness and the exposure, so it's much better. Do SH2, not SH1. And I'll talk about ProCapture in a while. But for now, so here, let's say I'm in Maine and there is that osprey that's fishing and I'm trying to catch the osprey fishing. So you see sequential, I'm getting a lot of shots, and then I decide what's the position of the wings that works the best. Well, to me, this is the best shot, right? It looks like a heavy metal rock album, maybe. So I'm able to pick the shot that I want. So to get good bird images, high shutter speed, key. Prioritize the shutter speed. Prioritize the number of frames that you're getting. So you want a high number of frames. ISO, practice with setting your ISO. Don't do auto ISO because like this, with a sky like this, it's gonna expose your bird and then you're gonna lose a lot of details. So that's why I use manual ISO. I decide which ISO I'm gonna use. And then if you feel your picture is blurry, it's probably gonna be the shutter speed. The higher the shutter speed you can, the better. A lot of people are going to tell you lower ISO. Well, nowadays, I mean, if you use topaz denoise, if you can clean up that noise, but you're never going to clean up a really blurry image, right? So as high as you can, 2000 and over. So I usually, for bird photography, I have a custom mode. It starts at 1250, but way higher most of the time. Now, I said you really need to know all your buttons on your camera. Nowadays, all those cameras, they have all the buttons that you can customize and make them your own. If I were to give you my camera, most of you would be like, what is happening? I don't understand this camera, because they're all tailored to the way that I think they should be, because that's going to improve the way I shoot, I take photos, I make photos. So I have the AF on, I use the back button focus. I also completely switch my dials. So the front dials and the back dials. Well, my shutter speed is the front dial because I use the back button focus. And most of the time, the shutter speed is what I change the most. And then my back dial is the aperture because I'm a wildlife photographer. And for me, it makes more sense to shoot that way. So I know that with my camera, I can change even the direction of the buttons. Also, each button can be tailored. So I have a custom mode 1, 2, 3, and depending on my custom mode, I'm going to change some buttons. So I might have the live ND or the night live view mode on, or the high resolution mode. And I had the AEL that's going to be set for bird detection, but if I do macro, it's going to be set for bracketing. And then my exposure compensation, because I use manual ISO, because I set my ISO, then my exposure compensation, if I do macro, that's my C3, my custom mode 3, then it's going to be set for focus stacking. So all those buttons, you can transform them the way you want. That will make sense for you. And that's what I love. I use my C1, C2, C3, C4, my custom mode, so that it really helps me get from, I'm all of a sudden doing landscape and then I have to switch to macro, or I have to switch to bird. I can do that very fast. Also, I have that little lever, and it's also, if you switch up, so position 1, I have one single shot. but then if I switch it to 2, I have all shots. So for all the focus points, so one focus point and all focus point. So it depends if I want my camera to look for the bird and I have an open, I know it's not gonna have any trouble, but maybe here in this situation, it might have a little bit more trouble. I want more control, maybe I'll do a 1 point. And I can do that with just going up and down with my lever. Focus picking is also another tool that I use. I set it up in front of my camera. So the front button, I have 2 buttons. That's one is focus picking, and it tells me what is in focus, and I'll see it in red in my camera. And also the one at the back is actually set up for magnification. So I can see here that, yes, indeed, I'm in focus. I can see more details. Now, advice number 3 is practice before you go. So as I said, you need to be familiar with your camera to not have to go down and look and change your settings. You're gonna miss a lot of shot if you do that. So I change everything while I still shoot, because it's like my camera is an extension of my hands. So I know exactly how to change everything without having to look back and open my camera. But practicing before you go will also make a big, big difference. So for example, the first thing is you also need to practice your form. So you need to be more stable. Most of the shots I'm going to show you, they were taken without any tripod or monopod. So I'm the human tripod. I'm using 3 points of contact like my tripod. So here my hand, second hand, reverse, and then also my eyebrows where my camera is really, leaning against. So I'm gonna be more secured. And then I practice every day. I'm out every day taking photos, because I know that when I'm gonna go to this Costa Rica trip that I've paid a lot of money to, I wanna make sure that I know how to track birds. So where I live, I have a lot of seagulls. They're great because I can practice them flying, tracking them. I can practice when they're fishing. They're excellent fishermen, like this one right here. I can practice when they started to land. I can play with my shutter speed as well. I can practice my portrait with them as well. If you don't have birds where you are, maybe there is conservation center. Maybe there is a zoo that you can go and practice. I highly recommend. That's another place I went, and I practiced my composition on flamingos. So here are a couple of shots. Oh, they also had peacock, local farm, go to your local farm. And then I practice again my composition. What is the best composition here? How am I tracking my subject? Can I change my settings as the bird is moving? So very, very important. So practice, practice, practice. I promise you that if you know the camera like the back of your hand, and if you practice before your trip, already your photos are gonna get better. I've seen so many people who are like, I just got a camera and I'm in, this new place, and this is gonna be very, very hard, and you're gonna get frustrated. So first thing is get your camera ahead of time and practice with it so you're comfortable. Tip number 4, take advantage of all the tools in your camera. So why I switched to omsystem, I started with another camera, but I was not very satisfied because of the weight and because of some of the tools that I felt like I needed, but I didn't want to carry. And so first thing, my camera is super stable. If it shakes, if I shake, if there is wind, I know that this is not going to be a problem. You can see it on your screen, hopefully right now. My camera is a 8.5 EV stop of compensation. Stabilization is amazing, and that's why I can do some macro photography, even stacking and held. So that's one thing that I really, really like. Also, another thing that I care about a lot is being able to track my birds. So now a lot of cameras do that, right? So you should have, if you are looking to get into wildlife photography, then I highly recommend, getting a camera that can track your subject like mine does. You can see it here. So it will detect the bird, we will detect the cat and be able to follow it. And then my camera can also decide, well, we see like 5 birds, which one do you want? And I'm also able to change and say, well, that's the bird that I want you to focus on. So those are tools that are pretty good. One tool that I think we don't talk enough is actually highlight alert. So in most of the camera, when you review your shot, you can see those highlight popping. In my camera, I can see that as I'm taking the shots, before I take the shots. So I have set up my camera so that when I look in my viewfinder, I can actually see the red in my camera the same way I'll see it on Lightroom. And someone was asking, what program do I use? Lightroom, Topaz, omsystem, Workspace. I actually use Lightroom because that's how I started. I use OM Workspace from time to time, especially if I use a fisheye and I need to de-warp it. It's a great program, but I guess I've been happy with Lightroom, so that's what I've been using. And I also use Topaz Denoise. So those are the 2 programs that I use. I also started using Luminar Neo. I really like this program, especially for focus stacking. So if you do bracketing actually, and you have 50 images, it will put it together. It's a really good program. So those are the programs that I use. But you also have some free ones. So if I'm on the go, I'm editing, I'm going to send my photo to my phone or my iPad. And I also like Snapseed. It's amazing that it's still free. It's a great program. It can do so many things. And there are some photos that I edit only on Snapseed, and it does a pretty good job. So highlight alert, basically, you can see it here. I have an osprey, and I can see what is overexposed. It's in orange. So I'll see that on my viewfinder, on my EV. And that tells me that here I'm losing all the details. Here I don't care because I want my birds to not be overexposed, but the background is not my main subject. I don't care if that background is white and I don't have any details. I care about the bird because it's my main subject. So I don't want the bird to be overexposed or underexposed. And that way I can readjust my ISO very, very fast thanks to the highlight alert. It really changed my life. You also can keep the histogram. You can see it here. I have it, but with the histogram, I don't know exactly. I know that I'm blowing up some highlights, but I don't know exactly what. I can kind of figure it out. But with highlight alerts, I see it. Visually, it's there. I know that this is the part that will not have any details. And then I can get that type of shot when I have my bird properly exposed. So this is a great, great thing to have. I talked a little bit about Pro Capture. So Pro Capture is like going back to the past, where you know that this proteritorial warbler is going to do something and you want to take it flying. Well, this is when you use Pro Capture. So basically, you start half pressing and it's going to take photos after photos until you see the action happening. You fully press, and then it tells your camera that, hey, that action that I really wanted just happened. So you can stop taking photos. The advantage is that with Pro Capture, your buffer is not being filled. So you just continue shooting. Whereas if you don't have Pro Capture and you're using SH2, then your buffer might be filled. Even if nowadays, I mean, it's quite impressive what our camera can do. But Pro Capture is a miracle. So I'll show you how it works. Just keep looking. So the little warbler, hopefully it works on yours. On mine is a little slow. So you can see it's some slight movement. He's moving a little bit. I'm waiting and I'm hoping something will happen. So my camera is just taking all those shots. And then, so right here, something is happening. It's a fraction of a second. I barely saw it happen, right? And here we go. So now I have the one, and that's the shot that I want. I got it. The person, I don't know if you saw, there was a person with the camera behind me. There is no way he got any shots because he didn't have Pro Capture, but I got Pro Capture, and I was able to to get the shot, and then it takes a couple of shots after I tell it, yeah, I got the shot, we can stop shooting. So it's kind of a miracle. Someone, Liz, is asking, how do you get the white background with your bird photography? Well, that's high key photography. So if you have the sky and it's like a gray sky, I love gray sky because that's the background that I'm going to use. I'm going to overexpose it. And that's how I got the shot because that's just how it works. I can see it. Remember that Osprey, everything was overexposed at the back. That's that white background. That's how you get it. So overcast days are great, and they make for a great canvas for your bird if you're looking for that white background. And I'll show you, have a couple of other examples coming forward. Now, another thing that I really like is the ND filters. I love to be able to smooth the water when you're doing landscape. I hate to have to carry extra ND filters when I travel, so my camera does it for me, and I can also do it handheld. I don't even need a tripod. That's just a miracle. I do use tripod from time to time when I do landscape, but if I'm going on a very long hike, then I know that I can do it handheld. So the camera is computational technology. The camera will take multiple shots, put them together, and that's the image that it will give you. So it's pretty fun. So you can see without ND, and then you have a couple of different NDs. Now with the OM1 Mark II, you get to 128. It's plenty to freeze your water. So you can do some pretty cool photography. And I think those photos where you freeze the water will really improve compared to not having an ND filter. So that was something that I really care about, is that live ND in my camera. They also do a gradient neutral descent filter up to 8 stop. And so you can see it on the photo here on the computer. You just move it down and it's a gradient neutral density filter in your camera. It's like Lightroom. It's like having Lightroom in your camera, basically. And so you can already do a lot of editing within your camera, which is great. I spend less time editing. So that's an example of what I took in the White Mountains, just being able to tame those highlights at sunrise. You can also do high-res shots. My camera is 20 megapixel, but if I want, I can get 80 megapixel if I'm doing landscape. I'm not doing much landscape. I'm getting into it. So that's something that is of interest for me. And then you have live composites where you can get that type of shot. So you are telling your camera to keep on adding all the lights that's coming in. So here you need a tripod for this one. And then all those leaves are twirling and basically giving you like a nice little twirl. And it's fun. It's a very fun thing to do. You can do a lot with live composites. And multiple exposure, where you take 2 images and put them together. So the mushroom and the moss behind. So those are really cool things that you can use when you're traveling. It's like being creative. I feel like when you are going on a trip, you get a lot of energy, you get to see a lot of new things, and your creativity is boosted up. But then if you don't have the right tools, then you can't explore it. And that's what really attracted me to omsystem. And then focus stacking to get more depth of field. My camera also does it in camera with 15 shots. So as a macro photographer, it's something that I really enjoy. Now, let's talk about tip number 5. So someone was asking, do you research before you go? Yes, I do research before I go. And simple tool that I use is Google Map. Google Map is excellent. On Google Map, you can see things to do. So if you click on things to do, then all of a sudden you've got all the very interesting things that you can do around the Grand Teton. And then you see those little photos, those little camera buttons, just click on them. And then it's going to tell you, oh yeah, it's Oxbow Bend, and that's what you're going to see. And you're going to see you have over 1,000 images that have been uploaded by users. So before you go, you can kind of visualize, oh, this is what I could get. And that's really, really helpful. So before I travel, this is what I do. Another thing that I like to do is if you're staying in one specific location, I like to do a drive-by so I can kind of see. And in this one, it was a ranch out at the by the Grand Teton, and I saw this feature and I thought, oh, I know what I'm going to do when I go there. So I like to already kind of get some ideas before I go. Google search, right? I went to France. I wanted to see vultures. And so I did some research. Vultures, oh, I think Verdon, yeah, that's the place. Vultures in Verdon Gorge. And then I went on a lot of, different websites and I looked for information. And I found out that there was a teeny tiny village with like 11 inhabitants who had a place where they would stop and feed the vultures because they don't want them to go away. So that's what they do. And so I was able to get to this village, and then I saw the griffon vultures. And then I also had visualized there were a lot of like cliff, it's a gorge. So my idea was a photograph of the vulture by the cliff, because then it's much better, right? Look at the difference. We'll talk about background composition in a minute. So you want to make sure that your background really help your subject. And, also sometimes things also happen because you have a camera and people are going to ask you questions and they're going to tell you, oh yeah, well, here I knew that the vulture were in this village, but I didn't know exactly where. Well, I had my camera, I was taking photos already. And someone said, oh, well, you're here for the vultures. I said, yes. And she said, well, let me take you where they are. And I was extremely lucky because this was not planned. Serendipity, all of a sudden, the little white truck that I read about that carry the food for the vulture came at the exact time that I was there. I was the only one photographing. Fantastic experience. So sometimes you do a lot of research, but this I couldn't plan. I didn't know when that they would be fed, and it just happened. And that person in the village helped me because she saw that I had my camera. I like to also use, eBird, Audubon, contact them, look at the birds that have been seen before. Maybe I'm looking for a snowy owl. There've been reports of snowy owls before I go. Ask local people. They very often, so this person was in Costa Rica, it was fantastic. He showed me, because I'm like, I don't know how you can see this bird. He's like, come, I'll show you. So he showed me where the bird was, the mot here, and he explained how he was able to find it, how he did it with his own eye, and it's like, oh, I'm not trained because I don't know this bird, but now with his tips, I'm able to indeed recognize the bird and be able to find it in that type of location. So talk to locals, hire a local guide as well. If you're going to a location, you want to see something specific, you want to make sure that you asking, you using local people and you asking the right questions. So tip number 6, composition. You want to improve your photos, you know how to use your camera, you've done your research, you know that you have the tools that you need in your camera. Well, now this is all about you. Your camera is not going to compose the shot for you. You are the one, you have the eye. You need to decide how to compose this shot. You need to look for leading lights. You need to look for those S-curves. Those make for very pleasing images. This is not a pleasing image, right? Looking for this small bird. This is way too busy, not a good idea. Relocate, wait for that bird to be isolated with a nice background. That's gonna help your subject. Here, this little fox, yeah, that's not bad, but how about cropping? Maybe you couldn't do it in the field because you didn't have the reach. Then crop and get the image that you wanna have. Same thing for landscape, right? That's a lot. Well, cropping will really help that image, because here I have way too much sky and way too much foreground, but this is a much more pleasing image. So cropping is also a great tool to use afterward. When you are in location and you see the action going, you get very excited and you start shooting. Well, take a deep breath even before you shoot and start looking around your viewfinders and do a round with your circle. Go around your viewfinder. What do you see that maybe is coming into your image and shouldn't be? What is too much? What did you cut? Do you cut anything? In this image, you can see I cut the reflection of the birds. This is not a great image. I have too much on top. What's on top is not bringing anything to this image. And I can crop the top, but I can definitely not, make the bottom happen. So this image to me is ruined. This is a much better image. I have space for my bird to travel. I didn't cut the reflection. This works. So always go around your viewfinder and see, what do I have in my frame? What should I eliminate? What should I add? So before you even take your shot. Think about your background, as I said, but think about your foreground, right? Your foreground can also help frame. Like here, it's helping me frame my bird. Same thing here, the aperture, so the small aperture. Someone was asking me about the aperture. What do I use? When I do bird photography, very often I do a 4.5. I'm kind of pretty low because I have enough distance, so for me, it's not a problem. So here, I like that small depth of field. My whole subject is in focus, blurry background, blurry foreground. I very, very low to the ground. It works. Same thing here. I want you to concentrate on the eye of this bison. And notice I'm at eye level as well with my subject. Always the eye will make your photos. If you have a blurry eye, or if you're not at eye level, well, sometimes it works, but sometimes it's not the best. So depending on what you're trying to convey, be careful. So try to stay at eye level. And then again, so here I have many, many shots of this mountain goat. And then at the end, the shot that worked for me was the shot where I included a sign that shows that, yeah, I'm hiking. Actually was going for a 2-hour hike that turned into an 8-hour hike. And that's just a good memory. So think about what you're adding and what you're subtracting. Think about odd numbers if you're taking animals, right? Here I'm at the beach. 3 is a better number. I actually would have liked to have more separation between the first and the second bird. That would have been even better. Works also for boats, right? You want 3 boats, not 2. So 1, 3, 5, yes. But 2, 4, it's not as pleasing to the eye, according to some studies. Same thing, those little baby elk, they're fighting. So it's the nice golden light and they're just fighting. And so here they're making a triangle. Think about that as well in terms of shape. So triangle, where are you putting your subject? So here it works, they're kind of in the middle, but you have that triangle that helps support your image. Again, eye level, you want to make sure that eye is sharp. And you are at eye level. Here I'm in Maine. I was traveling. I stopped in a village to get an ice cream. I love ice cream. And then all of a sudden, I'm with my camera eating my ice cream because you never know what will happen. And always have your camera with you. That's my goal. I know some people said, what do you do? Because there can be people who are going to steal your camera. That's tough, yeah. So yeah, you always run the risk to have someone stealing something. But if I hide my camera, then I feel like I'm not ready if something happens. And also I'm cutting the dialogue with people. I'm not announcing, hey, I'm here to make some photos. Is there anything that I should be making? And I feel like that dialogue is not gonna happen. So for now, I had an issue once actually where my camera was stolen, but in Mexico. But apart from that, I know there are some places now that in retrospect, I shouldn't have had my camera out. But otherwise, you just know, yeah, that's a place where I shouldn't have my camera out. But then there are a lot of places, and especially places where you've done your research. This is a popular place, but it's mostly fine for photographers. So I feel like use your judgment, trust your instinct as well. But so far, I've been lucky, and my camera has been more a way for me to ask people to tell them, hey, I'm here. If you know anything, let me know. So again, eye level, same thing for insect. Eye level, not shooting down my insect. I'm shooting at eye level. Same thing for that coyote, eye level. And rule of third, right? You don't want your subject most of the time to be center. Although Instagram, it can work, right? Because it's so small, but most of the time you want your subject to be either to the left or to the right, and give some space where that subject is looking. You want to add some space for that coyote to run. Negative space. If you are a photographer and you are entering competition, they will tell you this doesn't add anything to your image, crop it. Well, yes, but also rules are meant to be broken. So here I do like that negative space. I feel like the bird is filling that negative space with the song. It does work. So don't be scared of negative space. Sometimes they do have a purpose, and sometimes you can break the rules. Background. Here I am out on the ocean. There were some short ear owl, and I'm taking photos, but every time I'm taking a photo, I know that my background has to be right. This is not it. Here, I like the action, I like the light, but still my background is so distracting. This is not going to make a good image. This is an image that I'm going to like because I'm remembering that time, but this is not a good image that I feel I can show, because that background is not supporting my subject, and your background should support your subject. So here, as I was shooting, I could see that there was that dark background with the trees, the dead trees, and that was the perfect spot. So I repositioned myself, and then I got the shot that I wanted. No distraction, a background. Most of my image is actually, my background represent more than my subject. So my background is as essential. I don't care if it's overblown or lost detail, but I care if it's too cumbersome and not helping to make my subject come to life. So here I'm always thinking of creamy background, far away, no distraction. That was out in Florida with the bobolink. Now, here is an example. So this photo, I'm driving back to France, and I'm in the car. My uncle is driving. It's actually Easter. So I'm driving to my mom, who's very happy. She hasn't seen me for a year. And she was supposed to put the roast in the oven. So we just don't have time to stop. But I know the stork are there. They are all around my village. So I said to my uncle, they might be right after this little hill. Just slow down and open your window, and I'm start preparing. So I took that photo that way. Not the best photo. So how do you think I can improve this photo? So I think, first of all, dead center doesn't gonna work. It's not gonna work, right? It's not a good image, it's dead center. Also, I cut the reflection of my stork. This is not the best. The image, the light is okay, but it could be better, right? So after I finished my my dinner, I went back, and that's the photo that is much better. I'm not cutting the shadow. I'm letting space for my bird to move into, and the light is also much better. So if you can, if you're on vacation, revisit. If you've seen a great subject and if you have the time, go back when the light is maybe better. Go back when you have more time. Make some time for your photography. Now, tip number 8, work on your scene, work on your mood, your texture, your colors, and your background. All this will make for more compelling images that you'll be wanted to share. So here I'm going to work on the angle of this scene. It's in France. I really wanted to take a photo of a male pheasant, and I've seen them in this field. So I came back one morning and I'm working my scene. What is the story I want to tell here? Is it the pheasant as a portrait? Is it the pheasant kind of running away and still kind of looking in the field? And then at the end, no, it's the pheasant who is hiding. That's what that pheasant had been doing for a week with me. And that's the photo that I feel like I want to take and I want to make. Again, same thing for macro photography. Look at those angles. I'm looking down. it kind of works here. I like those colors. So, but eye level, I'm gonna try to get at eye level, but here, my aperture, I could have maybe gone a little higher, maybe a f20 would have been better. I don't like the background, it's so distracting. How about here? Well, now I don't like the foreground, I don't have the right angle, right? Okay, I'm gonna turn around. Well, here, this is a much better shot. Mood, what's the mood? You want to convey some emotion, right? Because when you're showing photos, you want to curate them before you show them to your family. So you don't show thousands, pictures. But here, it's okay. Just take the time to decide what is the mood? How do I feel? How do I convey that? Maybe your editing will be an editing that's going to be a little darker. That's darker, that's what I usually do, but it works. Same thing here, darkening that place that I felt really cold when I was there, and I felt like in a little forest with, like, I felt, I had an idea that I was feeling a little bit uncomfortable, and that's what I wanted to transcribe when I edited my photo. Purple, think about colors as well. So here, this is the moonrise, and I have all those reeds. So I'm conveying an atmosphere with the colors and with all that texture of kind of fantasy atmosphere. Photography is all about light, so capturing the right light. Same thing here with that storm that's coming in, that fog that's lifting. Those make for compelling image that people will like to look at. The mood can be also added by the use of your shutter speed. If I'm slowing my shutter speed, I'm creating an image that's very different than if I had used a fast shutter speed. I want that idea of movement. Yellowstone, so many people are coming to the Grand Prism. It's like a train freight going around. That's what I wanted to convey. So use of shutter speed. Take a silhouette. Here I don't have any detail on my main subject. Rule of third as well for my subject, the position. But here I want to show that hot summer day in Maine, up in Lubeck. Here, it's in Yellowstone, Lamar Valley. I'm using the fog. I'm going really early in the morning. I want to use that reflection to give that kind of fantastic feeling, that fantastic fantasy mood, right? And then here you have this theme of the bison that's coming up, like details. Look at those details. And talking about bison, it's great to have a photo like this of the bison and the heat coming out of those gigantic mammals. They're so amazing. But also look at the details they have. Look for texture. There's a lot, you can tell a lot of story with just a close-up landscape or a close-up of details, right? Same thing in mammoth. Here, I'm interested in the details, especially if you have weather that might be a bit too bright, then focusing on things. Just that bubble, same again, Yellowstone, it's in Yellowstone. Where else? Again, up in Maine, on the coast of Maine, looking for textures here. That snow, that a wood that has been scraped, it tells a story of the sea. And then look at the colors as well. So complementary colors. Here I have a little bluebird, red, blue. It works very well with that house that is also purple and red. So complementary colors are important. Think about that when you're composing image. You might have seen movies where they're using those complementary colors, the red and the blue, that teal effect. Well, look for those when you're making a shot. Same thing in terms of your background is as essential, as I said, in your photography. You want a background that's going to showcase your subject. So here the white background, as I explained before, so you're using that all the cloud cover and overexposing that sky. Work on your angles, that background, that light is nice, but if I turn around, here is what I have. That's much better photo of a plover. It's showcasing my subject more better. It's adding to it, having my subject being backlit. So don't hesitate to turn around and wait and look. Here, that's a little wren. Well, first of all, butt shot. No, not a good idea. But I'm practicing, I'm trying to see what's going on. Here it's facing me, but there's so much that's detrimental to my image. This is not a good image. But I can start to see that the back is really blurry, has a little branch. Maybe it will happen. I'm always ready for what could happen. And here it did. That bird moved back. And here, just a few minutes, and what a difference it can make. So take your time. You are traveling, you're on vacation, you want to take your time and work on your subject and look around for better background for your subject as well. I hope nobody is scared of snakes, but that's the same here. So close up and the background as well. I cut all the background because it was too distracting, a crop. One little editing tip. So here I want to, it was a trip. We went to look for whales out of the coast of Maine. And I want to showcase those two hands passing the crab and darken your background. Now I'm really showcasing those hands. So that's a little trick that I use by darkening my background. It looks like my subject, my main subject is going to be a little sharper. And then it's also putting a light on my foreground. Now, tip number 9, photograph all day, all night, and in all weather, right? This photo was taken, can you guess? Some people say during the night. Nope, it was taken midday, lunchtime. The back is actually it was a car and the light of the car. But people tell you photograph only during the golden hours. Yes, sure, if you can, but you are traveling. The chances of you being available because you're traveling with a partner or with family might not happen. So photos, any type of days, any type of weather. As I said, the fog, early morning, that's great, but you might not be up at that time. Yes, you're going to get really nice images, but it's okay. If you are midday, then that's what you're getting, and then use what your camera has to offer. Here, I used the ND filters and I smoothed that water. Find some shade. Again, south of France during the day. Midday, I went inside the town, old town, more shades. It was easier for me to photograph and create a photo of my family. Look for pop of colors as well. Same again, it was shaded because of the building. And then if you don't have a choice, black and white. Turn your photos into black and white. Then you can shoot midday. Wait for a cloud to pass. I have so many shots of this moose, but all of a sudden there was a cloud, and that gave me time to actually create a photo that was much better, so not as harsh. A thing that is important for me is to make sure that my system is weather sealed so I can shoot when it's pouring down rain. I don't want to have like raincoats. It doesn't work for me. So I need to be able to go out during a downpour and take photos, because the action is not going to wait when it's raining. It's going to be out. That grizzly is going to be roaming the road, and I'm going to miss it if I'm not out with my camera. And that makes for great great moody photos. I love, a rainy day. That actually this one was up in Montana. Same thing, downtown, look for architecture. Even the little spot, the rain spot that were on my lens, added a little bit of light, bokeh to my image and are making the image. And what's great is that after the storm, well, you might get a rainbow. So double bonus. Shoot, sunset, wait, stay for the blue hours. You're going to make different shots. And then that's the moonset, keep on staying. There are photos to be taken at any time of the day, even during the night. So here it's live composite, the star trail. I'm just setting my camera, and my camera does all the work for me, and I can stop it when I'm satisfied with my shot. I use actually a fish eye. And then tip number 9, you need to tell a better and more complete story. So what is your story? Here is that hawk being chased by a kingbird. To tell a good story, you need to find your characters. Who are your characters? Niagara Falls, so many people taking photos. I'm waiting. Started to decrease in number of people. This is a much better shot. I've isolated my subject here using the row of third and a crop. Here in Maine, near Lubeck, again, this is kind of fun, but this is a much better shot. I waited, and then I'm personifying those birds who are, kissing each other in a way. Maybe your character is an angry heron. That works as well. Maybe it's a baby white-faced monkey in Costa Rica. Babies makes for great subject. Maybe it's a baby listern. Babies are so cute. So you really want to try to find your characters. And then here, that's the eagles coming with the lunch, and that it's a little comic, right? Because you have all those cormorants who know that they are not going to eat the eagle one here. Maybe it's a street photography, maybe it's a story that you want to tell. It says no smoking. And then maybe if you're into macro photography, it's a story of two of my favorite insects, the robert fly and the little hoverfly. Unfortunately for the hoverfly, it's not in a good situation. The osprey feeding its family, the little angry bird here. You want to try to find characters, tell story. Your story should say 1,000 words, right? I shouldn't even have to describe this. I should just play it for you to make your own story. And then make sure that if you can, spend a few days on the same location. Some people are asking, Brian was asking, any tips for photography from a safari vehicle? Yes, make sure that your safari lets you use both windows, because you never know where the action is. So when you book a tour, make sure that you ask that question. Will I have both seats? Because if the action is to the left and you have the right seat, you're not going to get much, because that other person will be shooting. So that's one tip. Beanbag to be comfortable, so you can lay your camera on the door as well. So those are the two tips that I can think of. But the one with the window, if you're doing a safari, make sure that you ask that from your company, so that you're not going to miss some of the shots. And then look for your subject, what are they doing? Who are they? Spend some time with them, observing them, hunting, flying, coming back to the nest, bringing hay. So that's in France. Those storks actually stay all year long, feeding the babies, coming back. You might also want to add some buildings in that tells me, oh yeah, that's in France, that's traditional architecture. So add that. Make sure that you're there for those specific moments where they're greeting each other. That's a fantastic dance that they do. The sad moments too, those two were actually on the ground because the nest, they had fallen off the nest. This one is out in the Bonaventure Island, out of Gaspé, fantastic place for northern garnets. So here I thought baby season, I'm going to have great baby photos. Well, those babies were not the cutest, I'm sorry to say. So I then think about it. I'm spending 3 hours with that colony. What can I do? So looking at the couple, they're very aggressive too. They're very territorial. And here I'm like, what I want is those eyes. I'm really fascinated by those blue eyes. And sometimes just detail, remember what I said. Yes, get wide angle shots, but also look for the details. What is going to be the best shot? And at the end, that's the one that I composed that I like the most. But as I said, spending a lot of time with a subject help. Here, I spent 3 hours kind of working on angles, trying to understand what I really wanted to photograph and take away. And then my last advice is have fun. Because if you're not having fun, it's not going to be a fun trip, right? So if you're carrying heavy gear and you're done, if you're compromising on, well, okay, I can only have one lens and I'm just going to do wildlife and not landscape or not macro, That is not fun. The idea is your camera should help you have fun when you are on vacation, and you should bring photos that you're happy with, So think about your why. Why are you taking this photo? What are your subject? What story do you want to tell? And that is the one question you should ask every time you click. Do you want to showcase that subject is so funny with all the hair? It looks like a little Muppet, How do you want to showcase that subject? Do you want that friendly face of the seal in Quebec? Actually, a great place to go and travel to is the fjord. They have a fjord where you can see a lot of whales. Well, here I didn't see many whales that were very good to photograph, so I ended up photographing this seal that made me really happy with its big smile. Maybe the colors, what you're seeing in Yellowstone now, what you want to photograph and come back. I was just fascinated by all those colors. So again, doing a close-up. Maybe there is really nothing to speak to you, but you just want to spend time with your camera and have fun. Well, here I'm at a pond and I'm doing some ICM, in-camera movement. I'm moving my camera and I'm composing some abstract work. That's great. Still having fun on vacation. This one is not going to win any award, but it's a great memory for me. And it's the Mont Blanc. Remember that iPhone photo that I showed you? So it's in the Alps. It's quite far away from my village. It's about an hour, 45 minutes. But with the right condition, sometimes you can actually see it from the plains where I live. It's quite something that people might not know. It was a great photo for me because it was fantastic to be able to see the tallest mountain in Europe from my village and all those fields that were flooded. So sometimes the photo you take might not be the best photo, but it might showcase something very unusual about the scene. So you don't have to take award-winning photos to be excellent photos because they tell a bigger story. So this photo actually I put it on a Facebook group from the area where I live, and it went viral because people couldn't believe it. It's impossible. You can't see this mountain. It's Photoshop. So it started a huge debate. That was quite funny. And then traveling. I told you I went across the US and it's long. Sometimes you have to drive for 12 hours and it's kind of boring. And so my camera is a way for me to have fun. I'm taking photos here. I'm playing with my shutter speed and I'm trying to tell you the story of being behind all those trucks driving for 10 hours. I wasn't driving though. My wife was. Don't drive and photograph at the same time. Same thing taken from the window of my car here. You have the spring coming, but the winter is not far. So that also tells a good story. And then think about the location. This screamed to me south of France. That's why I took this photo. Whereas this screamed to me New England, those colors, those pop-up colors, those wooden houses. And I think that's how you elevate your photo, by just thinking of the rules, knowing the rules and breaking them, knowing the camera and being able to take photos the way you should take them, having the right tools at your disposition without it affecting your trip. You are traveling, you enjoying yourself. Your camera should bring more fun to you when you are traveling. And then your camera should help you see things that maybe you would not have seen if you did not have your camera. So here I really like that church. It's in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And all of a sudden I could see some smoke coming out. And it feels like this church is kind of floating in the sky. And so that's why I like to photograph. It's that I never know what I will get at the end, what story I will be able to tell. And that's why I want to encourage you to practice at home, see what you get, And then when you are traveling, try to see different story, prepare yourself, but also be open-minded to find stories that maybe you were not expecting. And that's what holidays should be about. That's what traveling should be about, is, being able to see things that you would not have seen if you were not a photographer and you didn't have a camera. At least that's how I see my travels. So that's it for today. I wanted to give you, I know I went a little over, it's 6:20 right now. And I tried to answer a couple of questions that I saw coming, but if not, put them in the chat, I'll be able to answer them. I want to thank omsystem for having me, Adorama. If you are interested in knowing a little bit more about omsystem, they actually have a summer school, so you can go and see. They have tons of tips about how to use cameras. They also have a lot of savings right now. And if you have a phone, you can take a screenshot of this. And they also have a Learn Center where you have a lot of other tips about traveling. So you'll be also able to get a lot out there. And I have a YouTube channel. I publish videos a lot also about traveling when I travel with my van and I go in the US and abroad. So feel free to follow me if you're interested. I'm out there. It's a nice community. You have my email. I have a website, and you can also follow me on Instagram. I love to answer any questions that you have, so feel free to put them in the chat right now if you want. Feel free to put them on YouTube. Feel free to post them in the comment section on YouTube if you're watching this video after we are done. And I want to thank you all for spending this hour, 20 minutes with me. I hope those tips were useful to you. If you're a beginner photographer or if you're more advanced, I hope that each of you were able to get a little something out of it. I'll see, I'm going to go back and try to see if I can find maybe some question that I haven't answered. So we'll let this run a little longer. I'm just going through. Oh, yes. Kathleen was asking about rolling camera bags. I don't know. I think Wondered actually has a rolling camera bag. There are plenty of camera bags, but I don't use a rolling camera bag because my kid is very small, so I'm fine with carrying it. So I don't want to give you a suggestion that would not work. I would just contact your local camera store or Adorama and ask them that question if they can recommend anything. And then you let me know, because I'm kind of interested. I haven't used one, but I can see that maybe in the future I would. Someone is asking about prime lenses. Are they worth the additional investment? To be honest with you, Emswico, so all the omsystem lens, they call Emswico, they're excellent quality. Some of the lenses that are recommended are not pro and still excellent quality. I don't think you can really go wrong with lenses nowadays because of the technology. For me, it's a question of, are you a prime lens photographer? Are you a zoom photographer? With wildlife, I like to have a zoom. I do a lot of zoom photography, so I consider myself a zoom photographer. That's why most of my lenses are zoom lenses, and I feel more comfortable with them. The best way, rent one, photograph with that lens and see how you like it. I know I did try the Emswico 300, fantastic lens. I nearly bought it, but at the end, I just really want to have a zoom. I just feel more comfortable with a zoom. It helps me be more creative and see things that maybe I would not have seen or maybe not have done. That's why I do use zoom instead of prime lenses. But I know photographers who are all about prime lenses, and that's how they shoot. And that's fine. It's whatever works for you, whatever you film brings the more creativity and you feel better with your work. I see that Tom is asking about ultra wide angle lens. If so, I use a fish lens, the 8mm fish lens. I don't use it very often, I have to say. I like close up, I like intimate landscape. So I do landscape a lot with my 150, 400 actually. I don't know why, that's just how I shoot. But my fish eye, I do like my fish eye and I use it for landscape, for night photography. The one from the pond with the star trail, that was my fish eye that I use for this one. I have a question from Inank. Are you using a clip for 150, 400 while you're not carrying on hand? Your camera with 100. Yes, so my 150, 400, I carry it like a baby. It's always with me because I need to be able to get it out. I know some people recommend having some, straps here. I really have problems here with my back, so I haven't. I don't think I could. So what I use is I use a belt and then the Peak Design capture clip, and then I clip it to the belt. So that's how I use it when I go on a hike for a really long time. If I know that I'm gonna have to hike 3 or 4 hours before I could see any wildlife, then I might put it in my bag, but most of the time I carry it with me. And most of the time when I hike for an hour, it's with me. I just hold it, and I'm always ready. I also use a lens rest. It's in wood, so most of the time it's already attached to it. I could detach it and then clip it. But nowadays I just carry it that way. It's really comfortable because it's wood, so I'm not gripping the metal when it's too cold in the winter. I really like that. And I have videos on my YouTube channel if you're interested in knowing more about this. I have another one from Island. Hi, do you know of any GPS device that work with the OM1 and the EM1 Mark III? EM1X is too big sometime. I don't use any GPS device. I don't track the location, so it's kind of weird what I do. I use apps with my phone that track where I'm going. So there are a lot of applications that you can buy or that are free. And then I record, this is where I took a photo, this is what I saw. So that's what I do, but I don't do any GPS device. And it's funny because sometimes like you have to be careful, especially when you're doing wildlife. If you're tracking like if you have a photo of an owl and you're posting it with the GPS location, then you might attract a lot of people and then it might be damaging for the owl. So that's why I'm not a big fan of GPS, of tracking where my photos are and knowing that people can see exactly where. I feel like there are places I'm comfortable. I would share location when I post them online, but for wildlife, I'm always very careful. Mark, would you be able to share your C1 and C2 setting? Yes, I can definitely do that. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel for my C1, C2, C3, C4, because otherwise I think it will take a lot of time if I do it here. If you can't find the video, just send me an email and I'll send you a screenshot and I'll send you all my C1s, C2, C3, C4 settings. Zero problem. As I said, C1 is for bird, C2 is for mammal, so my shutter speed is a little slower. C3 is macro, so my aperture might be start at f16, and then ISO it's 200 because I have a flash. And then my shutter speed is 1 out of 60. And then I have custom settings for night photography as well. So my Calvin, it's gonna be it's gonna be better for the night photography. I have Star Trail that's on. So yeah, send me an email and I will send you my settings, because now that I said that, the last video I made with my settings, I probably changed them, especially for macro. I tend to change things a little bit from time to time, like every year. Excellent. Well, I think that's all the questions for this live. I want to thank Adorama again for having me, omsystem again for all their support, and all of you as well. I really appreciate. I know some of you are in the chat, and I know some of you guys. So thank you for showing up. Thank you to all of you that I don't know, and I hope that I get to know. Thank you for joining us today. If you have more questions, put them in the comments. We'll be checking those comments and answering during the whole week and after. So don't hesitate to contact me. And I hope you have a great time wherever you're going to travel and you feel more comfortable to go and take better photos. And let me know in the comment as well. Do you have other tips? Maybe you want to share other tips. Sharing tips in an hour was hard. I went over already, and there are so many other tips that we could give you. So that's great that Adorama is actually doing a whole month of traveling tips. So I know Shiv had a video last week. I know there are a couple of videos on traveling. So don't hesitate to go back and watch other tips from other photographers. And well, happy shooting. And I hope I see you guys in the field on different travels. Bye, everybody.